How to stay on track during social events this summer. You can eat and drink within reason and still be on track to lose weight this summer. Guys, thank you for coming to the YouTube channel and viewing this video. If you like this style of content, please let me know in the comments, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about how you're going to stay on track during social events this summer. With it heating up, social events are coming in thick and fast, whether that is a wedding, a weekend away, a barbecue, or something along those lines. I'm going to tell you exactly what I would do, what I would advise my members to do to make sure that they are on track for hitting their fat loss goals without making sacrifices, okay? That word, sacrifices. You do not have to sacrifice anything when it comes to getting in shape. However, there will be compromises, okay? Very two different words, but it's very important for you to understand it. You will have to make compromises to get into shape, but you don't have to make big sacrifices, okay? So I'm going to use a couple of different examples over here to talk you through what my strategy would be if I was going to an event this summer to make sure that I'm not going over track. So the first that I'll use is, just because I'm heading to one tomorrow, is a barbecue. Okay, so let's say you're rocking up to a barbecue and you want to enjoy yourself. You might be having a few drinks, but you don't want to undo any of your progress. The first place that I would start is in the week on the lead up to the event. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you know about your calories and you're sort of somewhat tracking your calories and have a good understanding of how much you're consuming each day. Okay, well, what we want to do, and what I would do, is shave off anywhere between 100 to 200 calories per day that we're putting into this imaginary piggy bank, okay? So let's say at the upper end, you've shaved off 200 calories off of every single day, Monday to Friday. We've now allocated 1,000 calories into this imaginary piggy bank that we could dip into if we wished, okay? It's kind of just doing a little bit of damage control before we actually go into the event. On the day of the event, it's really important that we do two things. We want to eat a little bit lighter, of course, but we don't want to go into the meal completely starving ourselves, okay? So a really cool method that I like to use for events like this is something called the 3-to-1 method, okay? The 3-to-1 method basically allows us to focus on protein and fiber prior to going to an event of this nature, so that you've covered yourself there, but it's also lighter in calories as well, okay? So what I would do is, if it's a weekend, I would push my first meal back to a little bit later in the morning, let's say 11 o'clock, okay? And I'd have something along the lines of, let's say, some Greek yogurt with some berries, okay? So a very light meal, about 20 grams of protein there, and we're looking at a total of around 200 calories tops, okay? So we got that done. Then for lunch, I would have something like a omelette or a chicken salad. Again, just focusing on plenty of protein and veg, okay? If you're a vegetarian, you could look at something like a tofu salad, a corn salad, or something like that, okay? So we've got that going on there. Then, just before I head out, so I'm not going into the meal starving, I'd have a protein source and a piece of fruit, okay? For me, it's simply a protein shake and an apple. So literally just before I'm about to head out that door and get into the car and drive to wherever I need to drive to, I've had that. So now I'm not going into this social event starving, okay? Because that's the worst thing that could happen, because all that happens is logically on paper, it makes sense. When you go into the meal, gonna save a load of calories, you end up rocking up and you eat everything in sight and blowing out. We don't want to blow out, okay? Now, when you're at the event, we're just going to set some basic rules, okay? And these basic rules are going to allow you to stay well within your realms. Remember, we've banked 1,000 calories from earlier in the day, okay? So the first rule is avoid grazing, avoid the snacks and things like that, okay? The crisps, the dips, the peanuts, all of that sort of stuff, avoid it, okay? The next rule is we're going to stick to one plate of food only. Now, that doesn't mean pile up your plate with a whole bunch of food. It means that we're going to stick to one plate of food with reduced portions. So there's a load of different bits. Take your favorites, learn to make compromises on some of them. So let's say there's a selection of 7 to 8 different things. But there's 4 things there that you really, really like. Well, look, you're going to compromise on those other 3, which you're not a huge fan of anyway, or they're not high up on your list, but you're going to take the ones that you really love. You're going to take a small portion of each and you're going to put it into your plate. Okay, and now you're going to make that plate last. You're going to savor your food, you're going to eat it, you're going to take your time with it, and you're going to make the social event about the social event. Yeah, make it about social connection, not about eating food. Okay, salad, tank up on it. If there is a salad on offer, half of your plate should be covered with salad. It's just high in volume, high in fiber. It's a plate filler, so it means that it's going to be a stomach filler as well. Okay, and that's literally what I would do there. When it comes to alcoholic drinks, I would pick a number prior to going in. How many drinks do I want to have? Usually a good number is around 3. Okay, you can make 3 drinks last for a good period of time. You sip them slowly, have soft drinks in between or water, and that can usually last a period of time. If you are drinking, what I would say is try avoid high calorie things. Beers and cocktails, I would try and avoid where I can. I'd stick to a spirit with a diet mixer, a vodka with a soda, a gin with a slimline tonic, that type of vibe, okay? So that's what I would do with the drinks. So that's how you'd manage a summer social if you're going to someone's house for a barbecue or for a meal or something like that. You really want to focus on protein and fiber before, and then when you're at the social event, it's all about behaviors, okay? You want to behave your way to success. I want to pose you a question. If I gave you £1 million to behave at your next social event and make sure that you eat in line with your goals, could you do it? I would say for all of you watching this, or for you watching this, you'd say yes. So you can do it. If I was to give you £1 million, you could do it, right? So that's exactly how I want you to behave when you're going into your next social event. If I can do it for £1 million, I can do it for my fat loss goals. Okay. The other thing I want you to think about is behave like the person that you want to be. Would the lighter, leaner version of you take X amount of food? How much would they take? How much would they drink? Would they go back for second helpings? Would they eat 2 slices of cheesecake? Ask yourself these questions. It will answer a lot for you, and it will do a lot for you in terms of how you're now behaving in this social scenario. Okay? That's how I'd manage a social event if I was going out to someone's house. The other big one that's coming up this summer is obviously weddings, okay? And I'm going to sort of cover an Indian wedding. It's because what we're familiar with, it's type of South Asians is who we work with. It's the type of events that we cover. I think for a wedding weekend, it's just important to know that damage control can be done, but there are going to be certain things that are going to be harder to hit, like protein. And on these scenarios, we just have to accept that it's going to be a few days of lighter protein. If all of the time around it, you're on point, it's okay if those few days are a little bit lighter. But this is exactly how I'd manage a wedding day and reception. So we start off by the day by rocking up to a wedding ceremony, right? So the first thing that I would do is I would have a protein shake and a piece of fruit before I walk into the ceremony. Okay, so we've rocked up, we're in the car. Literally before I leave the car to go into the ceremony, I'm drinking a protein shake in the car or eating a protein yogurt and having a piece of fruit. My next job now is just to sit through the ceremony. If they have bits and pieces on offer before the ceremony starts, I'd usually just sort of opt for a cup of tea. I wouldn't have any of the snacks and things, okay? So a little bit of willpower needs to come in over here, where you're kind of like just sucking it up, getting through it, just getting into that wedding hall, sitting down and just watching the ceremony. Now your time is occupied for the next 2 hours, let's say. We then rock up into lunchtime, where you're gonna have a selection of traditional Indian food. It's going to be things like puri, it's going to be things like curries, it's going to be things like dal and rice, and maybe a few sides, okay? What I would do to manage this plate over here in front of me is exactly this. I would take 1 puri, I would take a little bit of each curry. So the guy that's serving you behind that counter, I'd say, hey, just a little bit less, please. And he'll put it into my plate. Just a little bit less of that one, please. And he'll put it into my plate. I'll then move on and I'll move away from the things like samosas, tokris, tokras, all of those sides, right? I'd avoid those. I'd then get to the salad bit. I'd take a bunch of salad, okay? And then I'd have a bit of rice and dal. That right there, what I've described to you, if you're taking reduced portions of things, is not gonna have much damage, okay? And then you've had the protein shake and apple from earlier. So you're doing well so far, okay? And that's literally the lunch. I'd avoid any sweet things as well. We now rock up into the reception. Again, with drinks, this is going to be a hard one. So it's going to be a conversation that you have to have with yourself, whether you're like, you know what, I'm going to let loose this evening and accept that I'm going to have a few more drinks, and I'll sort of, do the work in the days preceding. If you really want to stay on track, pick a number. How many drinks are you going to have that evening? 3 to 4? Cool. Spirit with diet mixer? Cool. That's what I'm sticking to. Okay, it's a decision you need to have yourself, and sort of just the consequences that you need to understand for yourself as well. Like, where are we at? Is this a close wedding that you really want to have a good time at? Cool, I'm going to let my hair down, I'm going to have a few more drinks, but manage the food, and then I'll sort of deal with the scale being slightly up or whatever it is the following few days, and I'll deal with it. I'm going to accept it. Okay, not really a close wedding, don't really care too much for drinking and getting on that level, then fine, you stop at three drinks. Okay, but it's a decision you need to come with yourself, or come up with yourself. The wedding food or the reception food, there'll be canapes floating around at the start. Pick 3 canapes, don't go back for seconds. Okay, that's kind of like your starters. You're now in, you're sitting down, and usually it's along the lines of a curry, a naan, and rice, and things like that. Half of your plate, put a salad in. Quarter of your plate, curry. Another quarter of your plate, a bit of rice. That's it. Skip the dessert. That's how you're going to manage your wedding reception. That's how I would manage some of these social events that you have coming up this year, this summer. Guys, this is exactly how you're going to sort of stay on track with social events and things like that. You want to really focus on your week, on the lead up to it, the social event, managing your portions, thinking about the guy or the girl that you want to be. Would you do it for £1 million? Would you rock up to a wedding? If I said to you, for £1 million, you've got to go to this wedding right now and not overdo it and stay on track with your fat loss goals. Would you be able to do it? Again, you would say yes. If £1 million is at play, you would definitely say yes. So it's not that you can't, it's not that you don't want to, it's not that people are pushing you to it, it's just the reward isn't high enough. As soon as we throw £1 million into it, it's funny, everyone can do it. Okay, so you can definitely do it, it just requires a little bit of a mindset shift and some willpower. Then the next thing you want to look at is the day preceding. Where a lot of people fail from a social event is they cannot contain the social to the social. So they tell themselves, I had a big day yesterday, what's the point? Let me enjoy the rest of the weekend, I'll get back on track on Monday. Don't do that. Sunday morning, you are right back to normal as you were before. The same routine, the same breakfast, the same lunches, the same dinners that you have planned, you're back on track with it. That is the quickest way to get back on track and make sure you don't do any damage after a social event. Hope you found that video useful. Guys, if you like what I'm putting out, please let me know, drop me a comment, hit the like button, and of course, subscribe to the channel.